Good evening, everybody. It was such a high-energy presentation from Vaibhav. We are now going to switch gears and move towards a more sedate discussion on what the industry is like in the gaming world and how it can be useful in the virtual commerce business. So quick introductions. Shall I start with you, Mayur?
Hi everyone, this is Mayur. I have the fortune of running a gaming startup right here out of Bangalore called Hypernova Interactive. We are a games developer and publisher. We are building, we've been around for 8 years. We build larger than life games. Right now we're working on this product called Mayur, which is India's first 3D open world game due to come out soon. In my past life, I used to run some of the largest games on Facebook back in the day, like Farmville, Castleville, with my role at Zynga. So I've been very fortunate to get into the games industry early and be part of the Indian games industry go from zero to where it is right now. So excited to be here to talk about the internet commerce and the internet consumer economy.
Thank you, Mayur. Quick one about me. My name is Biplove, and I'm the founder for Nukebox Studios. We are also based out of Bangalore. We make casual games for mobile phones. It's the first, and we make it for women. So it's a very focused market for us. In the lifetime of the studio, we've made over $50 million in revenue. So we are one of the foremost casual, skill-based gaming studios out of India. And I'm happy to be here. I think there is a bunch that's happening in the gaming world. And we'd like to share with you how some part of that can help make money in the virtual commerce game. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. So the first thing is that, there used to be a time when the gamer used to be described as a guy who's like a couch potato sitting in his mama's basement and munching away and playing, hardcore games. But if you look at the reports today, about 3.2 billion people are called gamers. That's about 40% of the world's population is playing games. So Mayur, how did we get here?
The mobile phone really is the single one-word answer, right? Basically, apart from one other super important industry that we're talking about today, which is ad technology, the only other industry in the world that's at the forefront of technology adoption is video games, right? Like if you have a screen, we are going to figure out a way to how to make it entertaining and interactive, right? Like whether it be material sciences, right? 3,000 years ago, rubber was discovered. The first thing we did, okay, hey, let's create a ball out of it and let's play, right? So any new exciting thing we find as a human race, especially in technology, we want to try and create something fun and interesting out of it if we can, right? So we like to be entertained. And that's the other big macro trend that we've seen worldwide and especially in India, where if you just look at the past 10 years and you look at the amount of time a person spends on a screen each week, that graph has been going up like this, right? And now if you split that graph and you double click and you also now look at, okay, out of the amount of time somebody's spending on a screen, how much percentage time are they spending on games, that graph's also going like this, right? So I think cheap data rates and mobile phones are the real answer for such massive penetration. I think in India also right now we have almost about 600 million gamers, out of which about 350 million people play action games, right? And so those are the people we are trying to build for, where you're building on the casual entertainment side of things, and we're looking at the action side of things at our end.
Right. So right through the history, there has been competitiveness. That's something that we've seen has led to Olympics really being in those days, from the days of Greece and Rome, and then moving on to stadia and to esports. and then down to mobile phones.
Absolutely.
And one of the other things that is common with the e-commerce and D2C brands is that a lot of them are mobile first.
Correct.
So how do you see this fusion of mobile first in gaming and mobile first in e-commerce?
So mobile is just a medium, right, for somebody to be able to own a product and be able to operate that. Games have different platforms that they exist on, big niches. There's like massive niches on PC that's just dedicated for PC. There's some games, massive communities. Like in fact, the largest game in the world right now is a PC game called Fortnite. Right. It's on mobile as well, but PC is where most of its money comes from. So there are these massive platform niches where games exist everywhere. So the way we look at it is basically we look at the digital presence of a consumer and what are they spending money on, and as a percentage of their digital presence, what is the percentage growth assigned to the games industry. And I think that bit is also going up significantly, and that's what's exciting for us.
And so it is for a lot of e-commerce players. If you were to be in the consumer's mind space, you have to be on the mobile. And
Yeah.
if you want to be on the mobile, you need to be entertaining, because that is where their attention is today invested.
Yeah.
So what do you say about the attention economy today?
So that's where games are super exciting, right? Like even outside what you're seeing right now is people trying to gamify not just different parts of commerce, but also their products, right? Like I was just looking at the Cred app yesterday, right? They still don't have like a great model that churns money out positively for them, but I think the one big thing that they've been able to solve for their own app is through by integrating games in their apps, right? Like you can play a quiz, win coupons, and a whole bunch of interesting things they're doing with games. So I think in the consumer space specifically, there are a lot of applications where gamification can happen, but our world is slightly different. Right? We operate more in the virtual world where we are selling virtual goods, virtual assets, right? So the way economics work for us is very different, right? Like, so once I've made a game, I'm not selling a t-shirt or a phone, right? Like it's a digital piece of software. So our unit economics also works like a SaaS company. The more you sell, the more profitable that product becomes, because the cost of reproduction of one more product is not that high.
It's zero.
It's almost zero. Exactly. Right? But what I'd love to hear from you as well is, right, like we are focused as Hypernova specifically on the Indian market and trying to look at, the growth of the Indian market versus you've tackled with some of your games, audience in US, you found, great success there. Would love to hear a little bit from you on how do you think about building these virtual economy businesses for international markets by sitting right here outside of India?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's very important for any gaming company to first understand who you're making the games for. Clearly for us, it was the female gamer who's about 25 to 55 years old. This one, she craves creative fulfillment. She wants me time, and she values her own time. So
my wife can for surely attest to that.
There you go. So that's the demographic where even if your game is a free-to-play game, and you can play the entire content without spending a penny, but because this lady really values her time and she wants to move forward and get those rewards quickly, she will either resort to watching rewarded videos, or she would go in for an in-app purchase. So the moment you understand where your pinch points are, you design the economy in such a way that the first 7 days are for her to get habituated playing your game and get her invested in a meta. And once she's invested, from the player, she becomes a payer. And the moment she's a payer, we've seen in our data sets that they are the most loyal. So as compared to men, their loyalty is 40% more. In terms of their spending ability in casual genre, it's about 35% more. So they are more loyal, they are spending more, and if you can get them hooked, money just continues to flow. So there are few things I wanted to ask you as to, and a lot of people in the audience would be interested in, is that when you have a business, there is always this very interesting ratio between CAC and LTV. Right. The cost of getting a CPI, customer acquisition cost, versus the lifetime value. And as long as CAC to LTV is less than 1, you're doing very well. And if it is not, you're doomed. How Absolutely. Are you approaching that?
So, that's the name of the game, right? For every software business, right? Where it's basically CAC plus LTV plus cost of production of your product per user, right? Like that's something that gets ignored. But for us, it's a big thing because what we are building has, you can think about it like a giant real estate project, but like a software, right? So it's one of those things where human effort goes in, capital literally a capital asset comes out at the other end, and that's what the power of games being software allows us to do. I think if Karl Marx were here, it would like blow his brains out, right? Like, you can put human labor in and create a capital asset out of it.
Right.
But, the exciting part is that what we create are not utilitarian assets. They are entertainment assets, right? Like, so it's not like a lot of the founders here where, hey, I'm creating a payment solution or ad solution, or like what Vaibhav spoke about, we are directly helping you save your time somewhere in your workflow. No. You're coming to us because you don't want to think about work. Yeah. You want escape for 10 minutes in your life, create your own space. So we think about entertainment first, escape first, because the one thing we've realized is that generally distribution wins over product quality, but if you have a great product and great distribution, that's like a unbeatable combo.
Yeah.
Right. So, we have this internal belief: if you give the best salesperson in your team very good product to sell, it just makes the job a lot easier. So, we approach from the standpoint where the product themselves need to be extremely good and exciting.
Right.
And given the fact that we have gestation cycles that run for 3 years, 4 years for producing a game, we're super careful about some of the trends that we decide to choose and follow. Like say, for example, the current game that we are building right now, Mayur, right? So we realized that there was these massive macro trends that were converging, where there's this massive audience in India, but nobody's making games for them, right? So when we were digging into the data, we realized that, hey, over 90% of content consumed on YouTube in India is non-English. On top of that, gaming has been the fastest growing category of content consumed by amount of hours watched on YouTube for the last, 5 years now. It's in top 3 in terms of total content consumed after, I think, entertainment and music on YouTube now as a category of content consumed. So despite the fact that people are, playing PUBG, Counter-Strike, talking about them in Hindi, there wasn't a single game that was in Hindi and allowed people to connect with their Desi audiences. So that's where the game we are building, it's entirely in Hindi. The other thing that we are focused on is making it very streamer friendly, right? So there are some very specific design oriented decisions that we take when we are building the product. Like, let's say, for example, and for some of you who may not be familiar with this game, so there's this game called Dota, right? So just for your context, the last year's largest tournament that happened for that event was at roughly about $32 million, almost 3x the price of Wimbledon, right? So it's a massive event. It books, massive these Olympic-sized stadiums to do these events. But that's a game where you need to put in about 150 hours before to even understand what's going on the screen. Versus then there are these games like, say, PUBG or GTA, where we follow a design principle called what you see is what you get. When somebody's playing the game and you're just watching what they're doing, you'll be able to make out what's happening. Hey, there's a gun, you're picking up a gun, you're shooting the gun. Right? It's pretty straightforward, right? Like, it's not like I'm casting a magic spell and what happened I didn't understand.
Right.
So there are these very clear, simple design principles that we use based on where the market is to make sure our CAC is lower.
Yeah.
And in terms of the other side of the equation on LTV, the number one thing we've realized specifically to India is that most of the payers in the games economy are day 90 users and higher. What that means is there's still a lot of hesitation in the Indian economy to spend money on virtual assets. So once the game becomes a part of your life for longer, for 3 months or higher, they're a lot more likely to pay some money to you.
Yeah.
So that's what we've realized.
Fantastic, fantastic. So I think a couple of things there to reduce CAC. You're trying to leverage a regional sort of a strategy. Yeah. And for the LTV, there are certain design principles there.
Correct.
So what do you think is the role of a community in the world of games? You mentioned about, for example, the large stadium in which the esports happened. People are not going to be fans of something unless there is excitement, unless there's competition and rewards. Yeah. So do you think there are some strategies out there, some learnings out there for e-commerce folks from the gaming world as to how to build a community and how to get retargeting done to them?
So I think the number one thing that matters to community is, authenticity and excitement, right? Like two things, right? Am I excited and surprised and delighted by something that you're doing? Yeah. Is it exciting to my life? Right. And how authentic is that, right? Yeah. Like, is it a fool me once business, or is that business or service or product going to be part of my life for longer? Right? So those are the starting steps there, because if it works, it'll spread, right? Especially for utilitarian products. For us, it was, we sort of tried to engineer success on it, right? Like where we realized that games similar to GTA, which is what our game also is, right? Like it's a 3D open world game, gangster game, action, violence, all of that, right? Like it's literally totally opposite end of the kind of entertainment you build, right? Like which is what my old job in Farmville was, to build games for 35, 45-year-old,
right,
women in America.
Yeah.
It's a very different kind of an audience, right? So with them in mind, we realized that we had to go after, building influencer-led communities, right? Where attributions become so tricky right now with IDFA and everything else. So the real source of truth is going to be influencers.
Right.
And we have an even more radical approach there, where we don't pay our influencers.
Fantastic.
Right? Like, so despite us being able to do that, we have more than 500 influencers that have a reach of more than 50 million YouTube subscribers that have, that part of our games program have created content that's reached more than 25 million views, all organically, and we haven't spent a single penny on any of this, right? But the idea was, at the end of the day, what does the influencer want, right? As Mr. B says, influencer ko chahiye do cheez, right? Like click-through rate on their YouTube channel, right? And second, what's the view percentage completion rate for them? If your content can clearly figure out how you can help influencer get these two things for their content, they will happily make content for you, right? Influencer ko bhi kya chahiye, right? Like they want to engage with their audience. They want their audience to like your content. So thankfully, the kind of stuff we were making, we'd engineered it in a way from day zero, where we'd built tools for engineers, programs for engineers, for influencers, where they can come create content and spread an organic flywheel for us.
Right. So organic flywheel through influencers and architecturing it such a way that they are able to create their own content and the user generation.
Yeah, but like base starts with authenticity and delight, right? Like you have to delight and you have to be authentic.
From authenticity, I remember in 1987, Diego Maradona led Napoli to a fantastic win in Scudo. That was a fantastic win. for Napoli for the first time. And the big fans, what they did was, they went to a local cemetery, people who were dead, right? And they wrote a large, big, a banner and said, "You don't know what you missed today," right? So telling the dead people that they missed the game of the century. I mean, that's fans and that's community. And I think if you can get those communities in your e-commerce, maybe through gaming, that'll be fantastic. I think one thing that I wanted to talk about was the holy grail of marketing is essentially closing the loop on when you have spent the money and what has that money resulted in. And I believe that if you create your own community, which is digital, if you play the game on the mobile, which is digital, and you have a business which is phygital, everything is attributable, whether it's attributable, you have pretty much solved the problem of attribution. And I think for everybody who's looking at gamification or gaming to fuse with e-commerce or virtual commerce or phygital commerce, I think this is a veritable a marriage.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Absolutely. So just talking a little bit about, I think we're running out of time as well, but just the intersection of physical and digital, right? Like there's a huge opportunity for specific kind of games to integrate a direct route to link physical assets to virtual assets and send them as a bundle deal.
Right.
Right. The kind of product we are building, the kind of products you're building, I'm sure, right? Someone like a Viva or a bunch of these people here who have cooking products might be interested in talking to you to, hey, there's a cooking product, there's a customer who's 35-year-old female who's runs the house, takes the decision on what needs to be bought for grocery, and she loves your game. She's rightly placed to make that decision. So I think there's a lot of interesting and exciting opportunities to explore there, but I think it largely will work if that can be contained within the game app.
Yeah.
Because what game developers would really want to be able to have is not send the user outside of their app.
Exactly.
Right? Like if there's a solution where you can make it happen inside the gaming ecosystem, game developers will be a lot more open, I think, to the companies who are trying to do phygital.
Right. And I think we are out of time. I'd like to end by saying all shoppers are not gamers, but all gamers are shoppers. So think about gaming and shopping, and I think you are in right hands. Thank you very much, Mayur.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody. Do you have any questions? We're happy to take them. I think we are out of time. We can take them outside. Thank you.